All right, so we're here on the railway grade. We are on North Lake, and at this particular spot, we have the location of Greer's logging camp. So in this open area here, there would have been a logging camp located around 1915, 1916, well after the railway stopped running trains through this area. Greer's operation had cut logs on Gunflint Lake and then rafted them over here to North, and then the logs were loaded on the railway to be used in the construction of a grain elevator in the city of Port Arthur. So we have this fairly large open area here. You can see there's a bucket. I'm not sure if that dates from that period or not. So we have this large open area, and then down here by the lake is where the loading operation would have been centered. So the logs would have been pulled into the water, from the water up into the shore, right about here, and then loaded onto the trains to be shipped to Port Arthur. If you actually look on the shoreline here, I'm sure you'll actually be able to see some remnants. In previous years, there were things like pieces of chain and pieces of metal on the shore. This location was chosen because it was very shallow and very close to the railway grade. So here's a perfect example. There is some sort of piece of metal pipe. Not quite sure what it is, but obviously left over either from the railway or from the logging operation. So we're here on the railway grade. We are just to the west of Greer's logging camp on North Lake, and what we're about to enter here is yet another fairly long rock cut, not particularly high. You can see the rock cut on both sides of the grade. You can see once again it's fairly dry in the cut here. Just looking back towards the start of the cut. So the cut itself, the height of the rock is probably about 10 feet. going by my own height as a reference. And so the railway now continues in a westerly direction towards Trestle Bay. So we're standing here on the railway grade on North Lake. You can see the lake right beside me here. And what we have here is a perfect example of some of the rock work that was done here along the railway. So you can see what they've done is they've taken some blasted rock and used it to reinforce this section of the grade as the railway skirts very, very close to the lake here. And so the purpose of this would have been to keep the grade from sliding into the water. And there are many examples of this along this section of the railway. So we're standing here on the shores of North Lake on a very beautiful but very windy fall day. And you can see right here, the reason why we're standing here is we are taking a look at this rock work that's been done here. And there are a few examples of this along North Lake. And so they've taken some of the rock fill and they've deposited here to reinforce this side of the grade to keep it from slipping into the lake. And as I said, there are many examples of this along the railway in this area. So we're still here on the railway grade. We are on North Lake, which you can see just to the south of us here. A very beautiful fall day. So what we're entering here is a small little rock cut, very typical of this area, where you see a number of cuts, including a number of very small ones. And so you can see just a small little bit of rock work done here. The cut itself is probably not too high, probably about 5 or 6 feet. You can see some of the spoil, some of the rock work here deposited on the south side of the grade. And then the line continues this way to the west. All right, so we're here on the railway grade. We are very, very close to the shore of North Lake here, which you can hear through the trees. Very windy day today. And what we have here at this location is we have the remains of a telegraph pole. And so you can see right here the bolts on the cross member, the cross beam, and stretching down this way here, as you can see what's left of the pole. Don't have time today to investigate and see if we can find any wire or any insulators, but certainly an interesting piece of the railway history here. So we're still here at North Lake. We're on the railway grade. We are entering yet another rock cut. You can see it here starting on the north side of the grade and then as well on the south side. This one isn't particularly high, at least in the beginning. Probably about 6 or 7 feet high. Obviously it gets a little bit higher here. And eventually here it starts to taper off. And comes to an end just over here. And in a short distance from here, we'll pass through yet another one as well. All right, so we're here on North Lake. We are just to the east of Trestle Bay. And so what we're entering here is one final rock cut before we get to Trestle Bay. So you can see the rock work here, and there is some on the south side of the grade as well. You can see this cut is probably about 10 or 12 feet high. Here it turns more into a bit of a cutting than an actual rock cut. And it continues onwards till right here, and then just beyond these trees here is Trestle Bay. So we're here on the shores of North Lake, and we've arrived at the site of Trestle Bay. It's a very windy day today, but at this location here, there was once a 1,000-foot trestle that spanned here from the eastern side way over to the western side. So we're standing here on the eastern abutment. You can see all the rock fill that's been placed in the water here. This abutment itself does contain a large amount of rock fill. You can actually see some pieces of the trestle itself down here in the water. If it wasn't so windy, you'd be able to make out even more. And so the trestle crossed way across this bay, right over there to the western side. Right there. On a clear day, you can make out rails and pilings in the water, and it's quite a spectacular view. This must have been quite the structure to see. So we're still here on the shores of North Lake at Trestle Bay, and we are just to the north of the trestle crossing, which was right here. And what we have here in the water is we actually have a couple lengths of rail. And I believe at one time these rails were in the water, and they were probably taken out at some point, which is why they're sitting up here on the shore. If we make our way around this way, we can actually see some of the remnants of the trestle that was once here. You can see here we have a looks like a spike or item off the bridge. Down here in the water, a little bit windy today. You can actually see pieces of pilings. Down here, there is a piece of piling here, and then there's another one here in the water. There's more in here. If it was a little calmer, you could actually see them under the surface, but it's a little too windy today.